All right, let me get this sorted. How am I going to do it? All right, bear with me while I just get myself sorted. Hello and welcome. I am just getting myself organized for this and then we can go. Say hi if you are watching. And when my computer decides to refresh, I can start going. All the old computer's slow tonight. Why is it not liking it? All I want to do is watch the stream. No, I don't know quite what's going on. I'm trying to sort out so I can answer questions on the computer versus on my phone, which is doing the filming. As I say, I am doing a little bit of an impromptu live stream, just rebuilding the car that I took apart this morning to film the video that I have just put up. So welcoming any questions or anything really that you've got on that you might have on the Wltoys or the Lossy Micro B. As you can see, I have just got a bunch of parts at the moment, so I need to figure all of that out. Now, actually, incidentally, the manual for the Wltoys, which I haven't got to hand and I will just go get, is pretty comprehensive. I'm just going to go grab it. Here you go. So this is the manual that came with the Wltoys. Now it has got a really good breakdown of just about every component. So this could well come in handy trying to get the right screws. As I say, it has literally got the details of everything. On a 30 quid car or 40 quid car, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you don't get that on virtually anything nowadays. But this is, yeah, pretty much a full build manual. I mean, you don't get that with the Losi. But yeah, it gives you the specs and dimensions of every screw, bolt, nut, washer, and everything, which is pretty cool. So anyway, let's dive into the rebuild and try and get things figured out. And by all means, fire away any questions that you've got that you might want answering on either of the cars. And yeah, here we go. First question. Right, I could really do with seeing these questions easier. On the way to the stations. Oh, you got one on the way. Cool. Well, I hope you find a good use for it. I have got to admit, been struggling a bit with it. I can't quite find a use for it, really, if that kind of makes sense. I was hoping it was going to be a car that I could recommend to people at my club as a get into buggy racing type thing. But with the lack of control, shall we say, from the steering and throttle, I'm a bit scared to recommend it to anyone because, well, it's a little uncontrollable at the best of times. We did have a bit of a laugh though, driving it around the track. Hang on, questions are coming in thick and fast now. Still trying to get my computer up so I can read them a little easier. Sorry, bear with me just while I try and find the area of YouTube where, how did I find it? Content, here we go, live. Is it going to work? Oh, it might work. No. Oh. Live stream, maybe if I just watch it. Here we go. Here we go. Right, I might be able to join the live. Sorry, bear with me. I am just trying to be able to see your questions easily. I haven't done one of these in a long time. Yeah, I do want to see the chat. It's not letting me see the chat. Come on. No, it's not having it. Ah, there it is. Here we go. 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 How do I get rid of that? Don't know. Okay. From Joey, do you think the aluminium Losi chassis will swap to the Wltoys? Well, will it swap to the Wltoys? It will. As I mentioned in the longer video, there are a few issues with the swap of the chassis. The Wltoys is slightly wider on this point here, so that means, hang on, let me get this the right way around, the aluminium chassis onto the Wltoys. Sorry, confusing myself there. Aluminium chassis onto Wltoys transmission. Basically, again, as I stated in that video, you will just need to chop away a part of the side rail here to allow for the bigger can of the motor. So that's the only issue you should hopefully find with that. RBRC, I've also got one on the way, and it was great to see the teardown of the two. Cool. Well, hope it was helpful. Let us know what you think when it arrives. I had a few people kind of saying they couldn't believe how bad my driving was, and that it couldn't possibly be as bad as all of that, and I wasn't telling the truth or something along those lines. But well, they will find out when they actually drive one for themselves. I try and be very genuine with all my videos. I paid for this out of my own pocket. I certainly didn't get it sent for free. So yeah, it is a very unbiased and honest opinion of it, and I wanted it to be good just as much as anyone else, but I do feel like we have been let down just a little bit. But there you go. Right, transmission back together now. In the video again, go and watch it. It's got just about every detail in there. Annoyingly, it's strange. They get, things like the arms, they're absolutely identical. But then when it comes to things like the transmission, the bolt holes for the mounting plate are just 0.5 millimeter out, and that is enough to not make it fit over to the or switch between the two, and that in turn means that you can't run this motor on the low C transmission, which is probably actually would have been one of the better things to have done, because it has got a lot of power, but it's not impossible to sort out. I have got a couple of other motor plates, so with slots in, so that should sort that issue out. But yeah, as I say, it's strange why they can get a lot of things absolutely spot on, but then other things seem to be way further apart. Anyway, getting back to the rebuilds, again, let me know any questions if you've got them. Happy to answer and dive into anything that you wish. I am just muddling my way through this, trying to figure out how it all came apart. Incidentally, it took me just about all day to film that breakdown, so I did put a lot of time and effort into it, but hopefully it's worth it and has helped quite a few people out. Right, now to find the screws. Now the screws on the Wltoys are maybe not quite as good as the low C. There is still a mix of both 1.3 and 1.5 mil heads, but probably more 1.5 than 1.3. There are a few 1.3s, but mostly 1.5s, which is kind of a good thing. Makes life a little bit easier. I'm going to try and sort myself out here so I can find the screws. Now, I did leave off a few parts by accident on the video. The rear shock towers, I forgot to add the clip, and I can confirm that they do fit and are compatible with each other. Oh, there's the aftermath of the shock breakdown. That was a little frustrating. There it is. No, that's not it. The shock cap being Loctited on was a little on the excessive side, I feel. If I hadn't have been quite so careful, I probably would have destroyed something or other while trying to get it apart. But again, as I said in the video, it's kind of the least of your worries when it comes to actually the performance of the car, sadly. But yeah, any more questions from anyone, please drop them. I am rambling to myself a little bit. And if there's any more questions, I'm answering questions on the new video as well at the same time. Just trying to remind myself how this thing went back together. The good thing being, you can kind of use the low C as a bit of a reference because it was so similar. That's a difference I didn't see. No, it's not. I'm being stupid. I'm looking at a front arm, not a rear arm. There you go. I've got my parts mixed up. The difference between the components, it's quite hard to show, but the plastics do feel quite different, or certainly look quite different. The low C is kind of this more matte finish, and the Wltoys is a little more shiny. I feel like the Wltoys is more of an ABS type plastic, then potentially something a little more springy. I don't know, I'm no physicist when it comes to things like that, but I'm a little dubious about how durable some of these plastic components will be, but we shall wait and see. I'm not going to give up on the Wltoys. I probably will put a little more effort into it and try and get it working. No, I'm finding things out along the way here. Which were the rear hinge pins? Not those ones. These ones? No. Those are very tight in there. Yeah. Maybe I haven't got things mixed up. Can't have got things mixed up. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to sort my parts out. I have got things a little mixed up while I was doing the video. Say, any questions, give us a shout. What if you put a low-C shock on its aluminium chassis? And what if you put the stock low-C shocks on it? Aluminium chassis and a new control and receiver. Well, yes. I mean, you know, any of this stuff is possible, as so many parts are interchangeable. But whether it's worth it or not, well, I think if you're changing the ESC controller, putting shocks on, then changing the servo horn, potentially the servo as well, you know, aluminium chassis. I mean, somehow you've got to buy those parts unless you've got them just kicking around. But at that point, is it really worth, you know, these things only cost, you know, the low-C's only cost $100. Just the amount of time and effort to do all of that swapping has surely got to be worth something. It's just the initial thing to get this thing driving half decently. You know, you've got to sink, well, I don't know how much it would be, at least the ESC and receiver combo, and probably at least a servo and servo horn into it. Now, if you can do that for less than $50, then yeah, you know, go ahead, do it. But you're still left with, you know, some, you know, slightly less than average components. I mean, the way of looking at it really is which are the good bits of it versus, you know, what's worth keeping and what's not. To rebuild a load of low-C parts back up into a car, What would I use out of this? Well, potentially the arms and shock towers. You could reuse the links, hubs, but that's probably about it. Chassis, well, this plastic one, it's not much good when you can't take the battery out. Oh, you could use the motor, I suppose. Transmission hasn't got any bearings in it, so yeah, really you're better off with the Wltoys one. Servo is completely junk, I think. Now, actually, while we're here, let's take off. I had this question asked. Let's take off the servo horn and just see, for, out of interest. Of course, they put a Phillips head in there. Let's see, out of interest, what spline is on the servo and if whether it is even compatible. Right, a few more questions. I'll let you know how it goes on my club's carpet track, and it is good to see the Wltoys fit. Yeah, would I bother running it? We're running buggies at the club on this coming Monday, so I will take it back down there again and maybe run it. Now, when I said or found out, shall we say, that the polarity was different on the Wltoys battery, I did find that out the hard way and managed to release some magic smoke from here. I have blown one of the MOSFETs, so I do have one here, which I am going to try and solder onto the board to revive it. Otherwise, it really is dead. Now, is the servo horn the same? Servo. You know what? I think it actually is. Wasn't expecting that. The servo saver of the Wltoys is actually fitting onto the Wltoys quite happily. That's great if you've got a spare one kicking around. However, as we, I think, have all probably found out, you can't buy the Wltoys servo saver without buying a whole load of other stuff. Can't remember what that other stuff is now, but it's something like $10 just to try and get the servo saver. So that's kind of a bit of a bummer. I'll let you know. Joey, what are the chances of the motor on the Wltoys is the 55 turn from hot racing? Well, probably fairly high. I haven't got a hot racing motor to check. I mean, it's an 050 motor. They're probably all pretty similar. I thought I'd just compare the spur gears. Spur gears. I'm not going to go counting teeth. They're certainly very similar. Gear pitch seems to mesh, but they do look about the same. So there you go. Another question answered there. Bear with me while I just go to the questions on the internet, on YouTube. I've had a question here. Hey, thank you for video. Coincidentally, I was looking into the micro BTs right before the announcement of the buggy dropped, and I'm glad did not purchase one. After watching your video, it's clear to me if you plan on modding the Wltoys, it's better to start with the platform to start with because of the price point. He's hoping the Enjoy releases a proper adjustable motor mount for it soon. There are two things that you didn't cover I think are important: the spurt and pinion gears and the servo swap. Is it servo swappable? Blah blah blah. Well, we covered servo mesh. Covered both of those things there. There's quite a long question. I will look into that and reply to that later. But yeah, I probably should have covered the mesh on the pinion and the servo. What are your thoughts? What's everyone's thoughts on, is it worth buying a Wltoys to then upgrade it? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. If you bought a Wltoys, and you, let's say you don't have, let's say if you went out and bought a Wltoys, what parts would you want to upgrade to it, and what would you do to it straight away to make it drivable? Tell me what your thoughts are on that. Obviously, some people still think it is the way to go, which is completely up to you. I don't have any issues with people wanting to do it. It is your money. Do what you like. I am just here to try and give an opinion and a bit of a heads up on what to expect when you purchase the car. Shocks, yeah, like I say, shocks definitely do need to be looked at, should we say, but I still I would still say that is probably the least of your worries with this car. That would be my only opinion for that. No worries, Joey. I hope it can help you in the future, or has helped you already. I do enjoy doing these kind of things in a kind of satanic kind of way. I'm very lucky at the moment to have a little bit of flexible time to do this. It has taken, as I say, it took me just about all day to film and shoot the video that I posted today. I'm no pro at these videos, so apologies for missing out a few bits here and there. I probably, for your interests, or I don't know, probably not even interested, I probably shoot, to make that video, I probably shot close to, I want to say at least 300 takes of all the different clips put together. I'm quite heavily dyslexic, so my talking and speech and trying to get the right words out are, as you can probably tell from these videos, very poor. And it, as I say, I could shoot one clip probably 10 times easily before I get the right words out of my mouth. So, as I say, it does take a lot of time and effort to shoot these, so I really appreciate the comments and feedback. I try my hardest. Now in the filming of this, I did, well, not sacrifice, but I did end up having to take my son's Micro B apart as well. So once I get this built back up, I then have to try and get his car built back up, because we do have racing next week, next Monday. Right, muddling my way through this, still trying to figure out the screws. The heads on some of these Wltoys screws are actually quite tight on some of the drivers. They are a little soft, but they're at least fairly tight, which is a good thing. Now, I touched on it in the video. The drive shafts were slightly longer on the Wltoys. I am not entirely sure where the difference came and why they were slightly longer, but they are. I've now got to establish which were the front links and which were the rear links, which should be interesting because I have no idea. Probably doesn't make that much difference, he says. Got one missing at the moment. That's a front link. I've got one front. No, of course they're on here already. Stupid me. Front links, front links. Tell me where the other rear link is. It's on this table somewhere. Front link, front link. As it makes its way over into this pile. And I haven't shown anyone any clips or teasers of any of this yet, but stay tuned for a few videos on that little truck. There's a little teaser for you micro people out there. I'm still missing a rear suspension link. Come on, where is it? Rear links? No, I'm not missing. You see, this is where I end up being just stupid. That is a front link. There we go. I'm going absolutely bonkers. Why you guys just stand there laughing at me, I don't know. And I've been also very stupid. This is how similar the parts are. I have actually just fitted the low-C rear arm and not the Wltoys. So back we go. There you go. If you're not paying attention, it is impossible to spot the difference. The reason I know I have done that is because of the pivot ball. The pivot ball on the low-Cs were obviously black versus the Wltoys being just plain silver. Oh, frustrating. Oh, there we go. Now, please, if you're watching this for any crazy reason, shout out if I make a mistake. It definitely, trying to talk and do this at the same time isn't the easiest thing to do, and I'm sure I will make plenty of mistakes as we go. Right, let's go back a step. That is that side. That is the other side. Then on with that. Joey, where are you from out of interest? Were you US based? It's always hard to tell on these chats where people are from. Well, it is on YouTube. Anyway, I'm assuming there aren't too many US based people on here due to the time that we are doing this, but maybe there are, maybe there are. Here we go, we are getting there now. Starting to figure things out, learning as we go. Now, I don't know when we've got new people on here and not, but we are rebuilding the Wltoys from today's breakdown. Learning as we go, getting a few things wrong. But yeah, answering any questions that we have. Oh, just had another question on YouTube. What have they said? Out of interest. Oh, one of my club drivers has just messaged in. I don't know where that other question went. How was it? Someone said they looked into the price of upgrading. Comments. Let's have a look. Community. No, I don't know. I have to look later and find that. There was a comment about buying the parts. I would answer it if I could find it. So getting this back together, what do we need? We need the rear tower on there. I did forget to add in the clip about the rear shock tower to the video. It does fit though. Maybe not quite as perfectly as the Losi one, but it does swap over. 1.3mm screws going in here. I'd love to know why they couldn't just make all of them the same. Wouldn't it make life so much easier? Assuming I'm putting in Wltoys screws. I think so. What is a good path to the starting the micro club in my area? Well, whereabouts are you, Joey, out of interest? So I started with the micro mini Zs. Sorry, I started my club with mini Zs, which was really good. However, I always wanted to start with a micro buggy, but at that point the Kyosho was the only option and was extremely expensive. So now that Losi and this have come out, has changed all of that, which is absolutely amazing. Where would I start? Well, first off, you're going to need to find a space that you can do it. Okay, you're in the USA, so I don't know how available small spaces are, but you don't need a huge space. Space is one of the things that the USA seems to have plenty of. I managed to get some second-hand carpet from a 12th scale club. Our buggy track is, what am I doing? I'm not paying attention, that's what I'm doing. Our track is 10 meters by 6 meters. You just got to really start and give it a go. Until you make a start, you won't know anything really. It does take a bit of time and investment. I already had the timing system from the Mini Zs. We use Easy Lapse timing system. It's not that expensive to get started. But yeah, do a basic setup. Don't worry about it too much. Try and get a few people together. Plenty of advertising and video content to get people interested and show people what you're up to. Yeah, just give it a go, really. You won't know until you try. Make the track out of whatever you can find that's cheap. We started with just some cheap PVC pipe, which has been okay, but I am just looking at changing that to something slightly better. Yeah, get a few people. You don't need many jumps to start with. You can make jumps out of cardboard. You can make jumps out of just scraps of wood. Yeah. Let us, just give it a go. Give it a go. And before long, you will have a load of people having a great time, and then you'll just grow and grow. I'm just wondering if that was a Facebook message that I had regarding the... I can't see it. No, yeah, anyway. That's pretty much the rear end built. I suppose I could put the shocks back on for what it's worth. Rear shock. These shocks, well, what do we make of them? Well, it's frustrating, isn't it? Why go to all the effort of making aluminium shocks when plastic ones would have been cheaper and it would have been a lot better to have plastic shocks that were damped than oil-filled shocks, than to have aluminium shocks that have absolutely nothing. Incidentally, the little bottom caps are quite nicely made. I'm assuming this is all standard stuff on other Wltoys and they just bunged it on. And the little ends are quite nice. So they kind of got some things right, but yeah, I'd go with a damp shock over a aluminium. I'm not even going to call it friction shock. I mean, there's plenty of friction there if you put a bit of load on it. But hey ho. What's everyone else doing tonight? I can't believe I've had even the people that I have had watching. It's a bit later over here than it is obviously in the USA. I've just put my son to bed. Managed to hide the fact that I completely dismantled his car today before he saw, which was good. Do feel a little bit bad, but I'm going to upgrade his Micro B when I do the rebuild. Right, on the front here, there was something that wasn't really covered in the video, and when I can find it, is this part here. It's such a tiny little thing, but on the lossy it is screwed in. On here they didn't bother putting the screws in. It can obviously be screwed in, but it wasn't. I would actually quite like to put a couple of screws in, because it'll probably make life easier trying to reassemble this. People that assemble these things on a daily basis must be pretty damn good. They are so fiddly. I'm not even gonna even think about the age of the people that are working on these things, but there you go, that's the world. Something like that, isn't it? What goes on the top? We have got, where's the bit that goes underneath first? That bit. Is that going to hold that in place at all? I should probably dismantle it further. There you go, that might hold it in place. While we put this back together, there's a screw in the front there, that would help, wouldn't it? Now, this is the first time I'm going to go over to the manual and see what screw is actually used. I really can't believe this. They put more effort into this manual than they did to the performance of the car. They really did. Slightly blown away by it. Front anti-collision fixed seat. Now, what's the betting? One screw I'm questioning is not on here. Yep. The one screw that I am questioning is not in the manual. How about that? Typical. There you go. What are we going to go for? Go for a fairly standard size one, eh? Now, I probably should have somehow dealt with this better when I dismantled it, but if you thought I was going to waste even more time doing this than I did, I'm sorry. I just don't have the patience. I suppose I better put the servo horn back on. Make sure we get the right one. That is our Wltoys. It is quite easy to tell which is the Wltoys plastics. They're a lot more shiny than the Lucy. No, I don't know if I'm going to get this lined up. I do find it quite funny how, and you can kind of tell when Wltoys obviously decided to copy this. It must have been fairly early on the release of the Micro B, because they obviously didn't realize that they updated the servo horn on it, and they put out the car with the old short servo horn, which is again one of the major pitfalls of this car. The steering is very poor, shall we say, to turning to the right versus turning to the left, just like we found on the original Wltoys when they were released. Right, going on to the front hubs, casters, spindles, whatever you want to call them. Should have got an axle somewhere around. Yeah. I thought I was being really careful and separating all the parts as I went. Turns out I was pretty rubbish. And there you go. Does that seem right? It seems a bit far out. Sorry, I haven't been looking at the questions. Oh, apologies for not looking at the questions. I've had trim track. Yeah, so carpet wise, obviously I managed to find some cheap real sort of track carpet, but the other stuff that I have used in the past is what I call event carpet. So the stuff that you find in trade shows, that stuff tends to be used once and then recycled at the end. So if you can find any local sort of centres, big exhibition centres, or even people like doing weddings and stuff like that, you can often chat them up a bit and manage to get the carpet for free. And that carpet, although some of it's ribbed and some of it isn't, it does offer quite a lot of grip and is quite good for making home tracks. I was going to use that for the track itself, but then managed to get the proper stuff. However, I do use the event carpet for all covering all of my wooden ramps and stuff like that. We are moving on here to the front hubs. This was where one of the differences were, and it was simply the fact that the little screws that go into the spindles was a slightly larger shoulder on it than what the Lossy has. So if you do end up using, whatever brand hubs, you'll need to use their screws, or if you're swapping bits over. Either way, the Wltoys, the holes on the Wltoys are slightly larger because they take a slightly larger screw. The thread is the same, it's just the shoulder. So if you're starting to switch bits over on those, be aware. RBRC, I'm from Skegness. Cool. I'm trying to think where exactly that is. I know my geography is not brilliant. Oh, a little higher up than I thought. Cool. Have you got yourself a track up there? I'm trying to think what clubs are in that area. I think there's a couple of micro clubs a little higher up, maybe. I'm sure there are 12 scale clubs or 10 scale clubs around there. The shocks let it down for me. Thought they would be oil shocks. Yeah, oil shocks. I wasn't really holding hope for oil shocks. I would have preferred a plastic friction shock. I think really when it comes down to the shocks, unless you're having seals in there, the aluminium is actually worse for a friction shock, because as soon as you put any sort of side load on them, that aluminium, sort of the shaft and the aluminium body dig into each other, and then you know I'm pushing quite hard there, and you can see it is causing friction and stiction, shall we call it, whereas obviously the plastic onto metal is going to slide a lot easier. I would have thought all of these components are pretty much coming over from another platform, so you would have hoped they would have by now invested in something that could be used across the board, that was an oil filled shock, but there you go, it's not. Nothing we can do about it. I was a little miffed at why they needed to use so much Loctite on the top of these shocks to hold them together. Actually, let's move on to rebuilding that shock and taking a little closer look. The piston or shock shaft, shall we call it, is just a screw with quite a coarse head on it. Probably would have liked a not quite such a coarse head. I don't know, maybe that's good. These are obviously, well, they don't really weigh much, but are going to be heavier probably than plastic. The screw going into there, I don't think there's really enough surface area there to warrant putting any grease on there. I guess it might help it slide a tiny bit, but really it's unlikely. So I'm not really going to worry about these shocks. I don't think there's something that anything to really spend any time on. We are going to assemble this back again. How much do you have to spend to make it? Robert, sorry, just saw your message. Just join the podcast. Cool. Hey, how's it going? How much do you have to spend to make it as good as a Lossy? Well, that is a good question. The question is, what out of the Wltoys would you keep to warrant buying it in the first place? Would be my question. What don't you have to upgrade to make it as good as the Lossy? From my point of view, the motor. The motor does seem to have quite a lot of power. It would be nice to see that on a different ESC. Whether that motor would kill a standard Lossy ESC, I don't know. I'd love to try it, but at the same point, I don't want to kill one of my ESCs. So a bit of an issue there. Unless someone wants to send me a spare ESC, and then I'll by all means give it a go, but don't really want to do that. What would I keep? Well, the plastics, the suspension arms seem to be okay. I don't know how they'll hold up durability wise, but certainly the fitment and the slop that were in them and the quality of the the moldings themselves is very good. And dare I say it, actually, fraction better fitment than the Lossy. Yeah, pretty amazed at those. So I would potentially keep the arms, the C-hubs and the spindles. So those components I'd keep. The motor I'd keep. Rear arms, likewise, potentially keep those. Maybe the suspension links. But I'm trying to be, well, I suppose, no, shocked, well, no. I'm trying to be, you know, positive about this thing. Probably wouldn't keep the front. That did have a little more slop in it. Maybe, I don't know. What I'm saying is there's not a huge amount here that is certainly any better than the Lossy. You are going to have to replace quite a lot of it. And the bits that you need to replace to get it just drivable are the controller, the ESC, potentially the servo, you know, which are all quite large components and probably going to cost you more than the, let's say, $60 that you're going to save on buying this car in the first place. And if you go that route, you are still going to be left with plastic chassis, wheels and tyres that are not as good as the Lossy, a battery that you can't take out of the car. That was a real disappointment. So I don't want to be the person sort of bashing this car, because I really did want to sort of find a reason and you know, a customer for it. I don't know what the word is, but I'm struggling to find who I would recommend to buy this car, because you recommend it to a new person, someone that's just getting into this, and they're going to think that all RCs are this hard to drive, and they're not. And you don't have to spend much more to make it a lot more enjoyable. Now, out of interest, my son, who is 6.5 years old, yes, he has had the fortune to be able to drive all of my cars since the age of about 1, picked up another budget, well, not even a budget car, but another car that has a similar sort of radio gear issue, in that the throttle is really laggy and not very nice. And this evening he picked it up and had a play with it, and just after 2 or 3 minutes he was saying, "Daddy, it's not very nice to drive, I'm bored of it now." And that would be the worst thing for someone that has spent even $50, £40, whatever it is, on a brand new toy, and they are, you know, almost instantly disappointed because it is not enjoyable to drive. And that is what frustrates me, and what I find, you know, kind of so frustrating again about this whole thing, really. So hope that makes sense on where I'm coming from. It's not because I didn't want, you know, knocking it and being all elitist on preferring the Lossy. Joe, you had a big motor on the Lossy and it was fine. Oh, I want to try it. I do want to try it. And I kind of have got a spare ESC, so it wouldn't be total end of the world if I blew one up. I was wondering about stacking a couple of these MOSFETs together on one of the ESCs so it can handle a bit of extra power. So maybe I'll go down that route and give it a shot. I bought the Wltoys just to see how it would work at our club, because we run 1/12 RC cars and looking to expand to smaller scale cars and buggies. Well, I hope you don't get put off by it. That's all I can say. Drive it, have fun, blast it around. Blasting it around in a big open space is probably your best bet for it, because you won't notice the throttle, at least, so much. It is very on and off, shall we say. So yeah, you won't notice that so much. The steering, we tried it on the Mini Z track the other night, and I didn't provoke any comment. I tried to keep my mouth shut until I heard what people had to say about it. But there were quite a lot of laughs, shall we say, and a few comments came flying out on what is it? Is the throttle? Is it just a switch? And that is kind of how it is. It's pretty much on or off with this thing. I didn't put the footage of the throttle. I couldn't put the footage of the throttle because I obviously did, as I said earlier, managed to plug in the battery from my Lossy Micro B into this, and the polarity's the opposite way around. There we go. Fatal error number 1. I plugged it in and poof, there it went. I should have checked. I should have known. I'm kicking myself that I did that. Why do they have to do things like that? I don't know. But there you go. My mistake. I am going to attempt to resolder a MOSFET onto the board. I've never done it before. I don't have all the tools for it. I can't afford all the tools for it because I need a slightly different soldering iron. But we will give it a go in a good garage style. Slowly muddling my way through this rebuild. Chatting a load of rubbish to you guys while I'm at it. Any more questions? Give us a shout. Incidentally, the pivot balls, yeah, pretty tight fit. Pretty good. As I said earlier in the video and on the video I released earlier, the fitment of the plastic components on the Wltoys is pretty impressive. It's one thing that I have been impressed with. Right, now comes the fiddly bit, this front end. Oh, probably a bit of grease on here would actually help matters. Incidentally, I thought I might as well ask, as my son was getting rather hyped up about them today, has anyone on here got either the Traxxas Slash or the Traxxas Rally? My son was eyeing them up this evening and I was getting a little excited as well. They look kind of fun, that's all I'm saying. He's expecting Father Christmas to bring one, but I hate to tell him Father Christmas doesn't have pockets like that. Right. steering linkage I should probably pop on before I go too much further. If I can figure out where it goes onto there, doesn't it? Oh man, should have done this before. Oh, so fiddly. Oh, come on. How am I supposed to get that on there? This isn't going to be pretty. There we go. Don't worry, I don't treat my race cars quite like this. Any other questions for the viewers? Please let me know and I'll try and answer them. Ideally before I've got whatever it is back together again. I'm going to try and get that back on before it flies apart. Again, this was one of the components that didn't quite match up to the lossy. I don't know what we call this part. Bulkhead, maybe? There we go. It does actually go on almost better than the lossy one. The lossy one takes some serious prizing to get back together. No, not then. It's a pivot ball in there, isn't it? In there. Don't know how long I've been chatting on here. Wow, well over an hour. You guys tell me if you're getting bored. I'll go away. I just thought I would throw this on while I rebuild the car. And then if anyone had any questions, they could give us a shout. There has been quite a lot of questions going around on my YouTube channel on this car over the last couple of days. And by all means, if you do get any questions, just pop them on one of the videos and I will try and get to them after this. I was going to tell you a little top tip with nut drivers, but no, I might. My little trick, if when you're putting things like these in and it disappears too far down, ideally you want to find a small bit of rubber, like I normally keep a piece around. Normally, like a small piece of rubber like this, foam rubber type stuff, and then cut a small bit off. Stuff it down the end. And then it will hold your screw a little further out, but you can still push it down. Ooh. There we go. We are getting there. Love to say I'm excited about getting this car back together, but not really. I don't know quite what to do with it, really. If you're watching this and you have 30 seconds, let me know what you think I should do with this car now we've done what we've done. What do you think I should do to it? Modify it? Give it away? Throw it in the bin? Put it on a high shelf and leave it there? Yeah, what should I do to it? Hope everyone is enjoying their Wednesday afternoon evenings. The time here is 10 o'clock, just gone 10. So my plan is to try and get this finished in the next half an hour. And then tomorrow evening, I get to do it all again with the Lossy. Maybe I'll come back on, do that on here, and we can put a few little upgrades on it for my son. During the making of this, I did have to completely strip down 2 cars, this being the one of them, and this being my son's car. Luckily, he did not see that when he came home from school, so I got away with that, which was very lucky. Although he's very good, he would have completely understood. Here we go. Getting the Wltoys nearly back into some sort of shape resembling a car. I'll be tri-shocks and the Lossy steering horn. Tri-shocks. What do you want me to tri-shocks and the Lossy steering horn? Oh, as in to upgrade it. I don't know where to get. Let's have a look. I've still got the Lossy. Here we go. Lossy. What does it take to get the Lossy steering horn? Which part number is it? Oh, you've got to buy the complete servo, haven't you? AX 13119. What are they going to charge us for that? Oof. Okay, so to get the longer servo horn, you have to buy a complete servo, which is £20, $25. Well, I can tell you I'm not going to do that. That's too much money. Yes, the Lossy one would fit if I took it off one of my other cars, but I don't want to kill another good car just to make this work. And I don't have a spare. I did find that the servo horns from a SCX 24. Obviously it uses the same servo. It would fit with a little modifying. I might have one of those kicking around. So I suppose that could potentially be a fix. We have tried all sorts of 3D printed servo horns, but just about all of those have failed as well. So unfortunately, that's not an option. I could buy a metal servo horn. That's probably going to be $8, something like that. I'm not sure if, I mean, maybe if you're going to spend $8 on a servo horn, you probably need to upgrade the servo. You might as well probably spend the $20 and upgrade the servo at the same time. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Devilish Mode. I think I've seen the horns as a single piece on Ali. Could be mistaken. Long wait, I'd imagine. Well, AliExpress, I actually use them a lot to buy bits and bobs. Wait time is one thing that I'm not ever worried about with them. Yes, it takes longer than buying from your local shop, but 10 to 12 days, I always reckon, which, as long as you're not in a major rush, it's not a big deal. I'm not that impatient. Let's have a look. AliExpress. What do we look for? Lossy Micro B. Lossy Micro B servo horn. Yeah, you can get them. You can't get them. Hot Racing do a Hot Racing do a servo saver for the small price of $32. Now, this is something you guys can tell me. Are any of the aluminium servo horns now the longer versions? Or they used to all be the short versions, but have they now changed them to the longer version? Just looking at the GPM one. It doesn't say. It doesn't say if it's a longer version or... I mean, it kind of looks slightly longer. Might be a place to start. Let us know if you know. I would love to find out, because that will solve one problem. Not convinced it will be enough difference to make anything really change. I will, at some point, plug this servo into a half-decent receiver and see if that actually makes any difference. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow night, because I'll have to dig out some sort of receiver to plug it in and get it all bound up. Yeah, let's plug this tomorrow. I will plug this receiver in and see if this servo with a decent transmitter solves any of our problems, because that will obviously save having to change the servo if we do a radio swap. I did hear someone saying that, I forget which brand it is now, that there was a transmitter that does bind up to some of the Wltoys stuff. I forget which brand receiver transmitter it was. I'd love to know if that is the case and whether someone could test whether it is the transmitter that is so terrible or whether it is sort of the whole system, because that is one thing I haven't been able to test myself. Right, we are cracking on and getting there with this build. Which is a good thing because it's getting late. Hello to everyone that has joined. Thank you for your time. I am wondering why you are watching, because this must be pretty painful listening to myself chat rubbish. Why is that steering link still in the tray? This one? Haha, I'm not stupid. It is not a steering link. It is the little Dewberry Watson that goes on top of the wing. Ha, you didn't get me. Incidentally, while we're here with this in my hand, the body is not polycarbonate. Cool, thank you, RB. That would be really appreciated. Yeah, Jay, don't worry, you had me worried for a split second. But yes, the body is not polycarbonate, it is just ABS, or at least it states that on the, I think it was on the box I read it, but also just from a few, the thing wheelies around the place like nobody's business. You can already see a few stress marks appearing on the rear wing. So yeah, don't expect the rear wing to last terribly long. Have I forgotten something there? No, that's all right. That goes on. I'm just going to put some wheels back on this thing. Yeah, the question is, how many spare screws will I have at the end of this? Pop it in the comments, let me know. How many screws will I have forgotten to put in? I've got more than I thought I would have at this point. Spur gear, let's get that back on again. Which way around does that go? Is it symmetrical? Maybe it's symmetrical. I think it's symmetrical. Incidentally, no adjustment on the motor plate for pinion mesh. I mean, from this, it's pretty obvious they took a first batch low seat and copied it. Because they made all the same mistakes. I think I've done something wrong here. Maybe that does have a different side to it. Let's take it off. Either that or it was just very close in the first place. The spur is basically touching these. Screws. See what happens if I spin it around. Yeah. It must be fractionally different on one side than the other. So flipped it over and we now have about 0.5 mil clearance. So yeah. Well, thank you, Joey. You obviously have more confidence in me than I have in myself. You think, is that Wltoys doing a version 2? Pro version. I don't really know the Wltoys sort of sales thing. Do they do Pro versions and modified versions of things? Is that their ball? It would be nice if Wltoys did a Pro version with a few fixes and changes. Okay, so we talked about what you would modify on the Wltoys. If, let's put it like this, if Wltoys came out with a Pro Micro B, how would you have it? What would you like them to do? What would be your ultimate Pro Micro B package? How would you like it to come in the box? Let me know in the comments. What would be your dream out the box package? Would it be all built up, ready to go, brushless, all the works? Would it be a roller without any electronics? Yeah, what would you choose? I know what I'd choose, I think, maybe. Why is this not going back in? What would your ultimate Micro B package be from Wltoys? Mine, I think, no, it's probably very unlikely that they'll do it. I think it would be well, maybe they would. I think it would have, would it come with a brushless system already in it? So it would be great for people to get into racing, or would it come without and be ready for people to put their own gear in? Don't know. All-wheel drive. Yes, we're all waiting for another company to come out with a all-wheel drive to match the Mini Z or blow the Mini Z out the water. I think we can what's the word, rule out Kyosho ever doing that. I don't think it's going to be in Kyosho's interest. Well, it probably would be in their interest, but I can't ever see Kyosho completely doing a complete rebuild on their Mini Z to give us a platform similar to in performance to the Wltoys. It'll be very nice, but I don't see it happening. I quite like the two-wheel drive. I'd love to see some other of the bigger companies getting involved in micro racing. It's growing in the UK, but we're far from what you guys in the US have. Right, we are really getting to the end of this, which I am happy about, and I'm sure you are too. Joey, who are you talking about? Kyosho make a four-wheel drive. I wouldn't call it shit. It's pretty good. Until the Lossy came out. It's buttery smooth, the throttle and steering are buttery smooth. Steering, the steering. What I dislike about the Kyosho. Now I had a fully modded fully modded Mini Z buggy. It was only brushed, but it was the big brush motor. And yeah, the steering let it down. It had a turning circle of a rather large lorry, full size. It lacked a bit of grunt. Now you could obviously go brushless, but it was only the, I had the, I can't remember what it was. More powerful motor in it anyway. But it was very weighty with all of those AAA batteries. It is rather weighty, which made it rather heavy to jump, and yeah, not fantastic. Well, it is good, but could be better, should we say. We're getting there. I do still have quite a few screws left. There's 3 screws I should have for the top deck, but I won't be putting that on just yet because I need to fix the ESC. Incidentally, without the top deck, well, you get the idea. It's a little flexy. Get the wing back on. Yeah, I wouldn't knock the Mini Z. It was a good car. And so my micro buggy experience started with, well, I've got it right here on the shelf beside me actually. Started with the Charisma. Started with this car, which, God blimey, those shocks have gone stiff. This is what I started with, and it was brushless. It was 1S I was running it on, 4-wheel drive, and it was fast, very fast. However, very similar to the Wltoys, the steering and throttle control left a lot to be desired. So I ripped out all the electronics and tried to find a replacement ESC to go in it. This was, I'm talking probably at least 4 or more years ago, 5 years ago probably now. Sadly, this ESC wasn't brilliant, and the servo wasn't great either. So it helped a little bit, but not massively. But it did go pretty good. It jumped really nicely because it was light. I would love Charisma to come out with a similar buggy. I think they could be one of the people to give their car a bit of an update and come out with something that, well, at least would certainly, hopefully, perform better than the Wltoys. But yeah, it could be another option. Incidentally, I do actually have here the Charisma GT24 ST. I'm not going to give too much away on that, but there is a video coming out fairly soon on it. I don't know if any of you guys have got one of these yet. Me and my son have been bashing it around outside and a little bit in the house. And well, yeah, there will be a full review on that fairly soon. They also sent me a few upgrades that we can put on it and modify it. I do quite like the look of it. Not necessarily the flames, but the body styling. I actually had a walker by go saying, "Oh, is that the associated whatever it is, RC 10? No, whatever it is, but the old school one." And I said, "No, it's not, but it does kind of look like that." So not going to give anything away, but let's say I've got a clear body that we will be painting up in the near future. So yeah, stand by for a video on that probably next week. I think Charisma still make their buggy. I don't know. Don't know if it's still in stock. I'm pretty sure they do. It did go out of stock for a while, but I think they brought it back. Not sure if there are any other options out there. So here you go, last few parts going back on this that we took off. I'm still left with 2 very long screws. And 3 screws, or 2 screws short for other parts. Where are these 2 from? What am I missing? Soon find out when I drive it, because it'll all fall apart. There you go, that's interesting. Not that it's any real different to the lossy, but there's actually a little bit more play in there than I remember. Whether any of this is due to me putting it back together badly. The wheels and the bushings, quite a bit play in there. I'm not totally against the bushings if the tolerances are pretty good, but perhaps they're not good enough. I can't think where those screws have come from. Oh, one's probably out of there, isn't it? One's probably out of that, which means we're only now 1 screw short. Or perhaps that other screw's come from the other car. Now, I'll tell you one thing. The amount of magnetism, whatever the word is, that this motor has is pretty impressive. That's back on there. Oh, look, let's just stuff this all back together just for the sake of it. Thank you for everyone that has been watching tonight. It must have been pretty much like watching paint dry, but, well, there you go. Hope it's given you a little bit more of an insight into the car. I've got 1 screw left. There you go. I'm going to say that is from the Wltoys. So there you go. We have the car built back up. Has anyone got any questions? Fire them over now. That is our battery. Yeah, as I said before, actually, while we've got the Wltoys apart, let's take a look and see how tight that battery was. It certainly wouldn't fit in easily with the top deck on. Theoretically, it looks like it should fit, but it was a real push to try and get it in there. If you ever do decide to use it, but whatever you do, don't get the plugs mixed up, because you will blow something up, because the polarity is different. And likewise, if you start plugging chargers that are not the ones that it came with in it, now hopefully your charger will give you a warning of reverse polarity, but if your charger doesn't do that, then you're going to be asking for problems, and I expect there's going to be at least one person that has that issue. But there you go. Does the Wltoys have enough room for the longest servo horn? Yes, most definitely it does. And that would be a great starting point. Like I said in the video, Wltoys, I don't think they got the memo when Wltoys changed a few parts, and they just copied that original car that got released. Servo horn is the same, no gear mesh adjustment on the motor. What else did Wltoys change first time in the revision? Servo horn, motor. Oh, well, it was the actual motor itself, didn't they? They messed up on the motor. They gave everyone these really slow ones. But yeah, yes, it does fit. Thanks for the rebuild. No worries, RB. Thank you for your time in watching. Any other questions before I go? Still have one more cart to rebuild. I will probably come back on here tomorrow night and do that. And we might throw on a few modifications. No more questions. That's fine with me. In that case, hope everyone has found this helpful. And yeah, I will see you in the video soon. Hope you have a good evening. Laters.